Javier Baez, of course, former Cub, former Met for a second, he signs with the Tigers. Shortstop, can also play second base, can really play anywhere in the infield. But the Tigers making a bit of a move. They signed Javi Baez 6 years, $140 million. They already went out earlier and signed the pitcher Eduardo Rodriguez 5 years, $77 million. And then let's just go back. Most of these guys were the last couple of days, but I'm reading off the big contracts so far. Kevin Gausman of the Giants previously signs with the Blue Jays, 5 years, $110 million. John Gray, formerly of the Rockies, headed to the Rangers, 4 years, $56 million. Starling Marte, part of the Mets just spending spree. It seemed like Steve Cohen was ticked off about Steven Matz, and then he went just crazy, signing Mark Canha, wow, Eduardo Escobar, Starling Marte. And, oh, by the way, Max Scherzer, let's sign you to a 3-year, $130 million deal, the highest AAV in the history of baseball at $43.33 million. We all know about Steven Matz to the Cardinals, 4 years, $44 million. Corey Seager, Cam Janssen. Corey Seager, a lot of people thought, me included. Now, take the money out of it, which you can't. We all get it. You can't take the money out of it. But Corey Seager is a perfect fit for the Cardinals and what they need, which is you can certainly upgrade at the shortstop position, and he's a left-handed bat. And you wondered, because Corey Seager had some injury issues, you just wondered over the last year, could you maybe get him on a shorter-term deal? Guess what? Not the case whatsoever, as he signs a 10-year contract with the Rangers. 10 years for $325 million. The Rangers also, I already mentioned they signed John Gray. They get Marcus Semien, who's a guy who can also play shortstop, second base. 7 years, $175 million. So the Texas Rangers, who have been crap for a couple of years, go out and basically spend about $600 million, which you love to see, Cam. They have a newer stadium, and I like seeing teams going out there and trying to win.
They're exactly right. You want that, and you want to root for teams that do that, especially when it's not just the big dogs, too. And I know Texas, I don't know who their ownership group is. I don't know how much money he's worth. Of course, the Mets, oh boy, he's worth, what, $11 billion. So it's like, if this is your baby, you spend money on it. You spend money as an owner like that. Don't be cheap. We always talk about that. You got to keep it lively. You need fans to come in. Baseball's already trending in a weird direction with the pace of play. We always talk about that kind of stuff. But you got to. Did you say they got a new facility out there? They just put money into the facility out there too in Texas? Is that what you said?
Their stadium. See, I was down there for. It was actually for the Blues. The Blues playoff round. That was 2 years ago. And so I believe that was the last year of their old stadium. Yeah, so it's not brand new, but it's basically, it's the last year or so. They have a new stadium.
But you appreciate that, though. And again, like we always talk about, you want you want to root for teams that spend that kind of money, and the fans deserve it too. They do. And some teams could do more than others when it comes to that, and they got other things going on. I understand that, but you'd like to see that. That brings intrigue to the league. It does. These monster contracts. You got these big guys in the lineup that you could promote and market. I don't know. I like where baseball's trending right now. I just hope there's not a lockout.
Well, unfortunately, I think there is going to be a lockout, which I do think is an interesting part of this conversation, because for years, I've always thought that baseball's free agency was the most boring of any sport. And in my opinion, I think the NBA is the best. And I say that because, now look, there's clearly a lot of tampering going on, because the second free agency hits in the NBA, all these dudes have deals at like 12:01. The second the deals are allowed to be announced or signed, whatever it is. And the pace of Major League Baseball free agency, I always thought, hurt the sport, because you would see in typical years where you don't have a lockout pending, but you'd see some smaller deals usually. Maybe you see a big deal in, I don't know, late November, December. But in the last several years, think about the big deals for Bryce Harper, Manny Machado. I mean, it seemed like we were waiting to February, in some cases getting very close to spring training before some of these mega deals were signed. And that's why, in a weird way, you look at what happened the last couple of days, and the fact that you had this, I don't want to call it an artificial deadline, because the deadline is really the lockout that everybody knows is coming. But Kim, put yourself in the position of the players. If you think that a lockout is going to come and there's going to be no baseball activity, let's say for 60 days, 80 days, whatever it is. Let's say even in a best case scenario, they have a deal done right before spring training. If you're signing a 7-year deal, Cam, a 10-year deal, and let's say you're married with kids, don't you want to know where you're going before the lockout as opposed to waiting, let's say 60, 80 days and then spring training starting in a month and I don't even know who I'm playing for?
Do you know how hard? Listen, and look, we don't feel sorry for the players. They make a ton of money. They got head problems. That's at least mine. It's like we deal with. No, what's tough. The biggest pain in the ass is what you just said. For a player, man, you're always thinking. You can't ever relax. Like, you're like, okay, where am I at? I have to get my kids in line. We have to find the school. Where's everything? Like, there's so many different variables. Your wife it's not just you. It's your whole family that has to deal with it. And and not to mention, like, the back of your mind, you're like, well, where am I going? Like, you want to, when you go into something, everything's so mental anyway, as a player, as a hockey player, as a baseball player, not knowing where the hell you're at and visualizing what you're going to do in your setup and where your kids are going to school and what you and the wife are going to do when you get to the stadium and where you're going to eat. And everything just comes together. And if you don't know that, it ages you, man. Like, you can't focus on anything else. And it's the biggest pain in the ass. And it's worrisome. And then not to mention your family's like, well, what are we doing? Where at? I don't care how much money you make. It's tough to deal with. So, no, man, I want to get that damn thing done. I want to regroup. I want to get organized. Because if you're unorganized, you're not playing well. Put it that way.
And one other deal I didn't mention, Robbie Ray also to the Seattle Mariners, $115 million contract for the reigning Cy Young Award winner of the Blue Jays. You have these Blue Jays pitchers who are heading elsewhere now, like Steven Matz and also Robbie Ray as well, who gets paid from the Seattle Mariners.
Would you want to play for the Blue Jays though? If they paid you more money. Say a U.S. team, would you be hesitant to play for the Blue Jays, Charlie? To be just being a pain in the ass, going across the border all the time.
Just to get the details, so that deal 5 years, 115 for Robbie Ray. For me, look, I love Canada. We've talked about this. Big fan of Toronto. Big fan of Windsor back in the day when I was 19. Huge fan of Vancouver. But if I'm an American and it's just easier to live in America and for your family going over the border. Like, to me, Canada's not that much different. But then if you throw COVID into it with everything going on.
Charlie.
No, I know. And there's taxes and there's health insurance and all that. Yeah. To me, if I had my pick and it was a tie between the Toronto Blue Jays and another team, I would probably want to live in America.
I know. So 100%, man. It's more than you think. The people are great. We're not talking about it. The system's different. It just really is. It's an extra workload in different ways when you're from the United States, middle of Missouri, and you go up there. This is completely different. Great people, though. But, yeah, I'd be a little – like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I want to play up there. It's not really – there's so many baseball towns, too, to where I guess, like, it's still a huge city. But they like the hockey there, and I guess you're still a superstar one way or the other. But, I'd be a little bit hesitant for sure.
I think now more than ever is a good time to be going to Toronto to play baseball there because of the way that the culture's kind of gone upward. Yeah, just with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. going there, and I know Semyon just left. But, hell, they had a Cy Young winner, MVP candidate, 2 MVP candidates. And they're a winning team. They're a fun team, too. They had the most home runs in the season last year. So, yeah, I think that they're just going upward, and I think that, obviously it's a hockey city, like you said, Cam. Obviously, it's the Blue Jays, kind of like with here, it's the Cardinals first, in most people's minds.
There's more of a gap up there, I would say. But on the other hand, though, here's another weird little thing. Good point, by the way, Seth. I'd say that I want to play if I had my choice, I'm just saying, like as an athlete, if I had my choice, if I was really good, I'd want to play in a ballpark that was open. Like you watch I know it's like petty, but it's like, God, Busch Stadium, like you walk out there, it's like the atmosphere, like the feeling. But if you're enclosed in baseball, I'm like, I don't know. It's just like, it's kind of like, Like you look at the Marlins and all that down there, it looks completely different.
Right. And that's where, so Seth is absolutely right when you're talking about a baseball standpoint. And I was speaking more to kind of just lifestyle.
Yeah, me
Look,
too.
If everything was a tie, I would rather live in the United States just because I'm from the United States. But as Seth said, when you're talking about a team trying to win, they have a ton of good young position players, all these sons of freaking Hall of Fame type players. You got Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who would have been the MVP if not for Shohei Ohtani being able to pitch and hit. I mean, Guerrero Jr.'s numbers as just a position player were ridiculous. He would win the MVP in any other year if it's not for a dude who pitches, which is just unheard of. You got Bo Bichette, Dante Bichette's kid. I know Kevin Biggio had a rough year, but he has tons of talent. And then they're going for it in terms of Jose Barrios. They traded for him. They signed him to a deal. Kevin Gossman. So they are built to win, and they're built to win in a division that we all know is super tough because you have the Yankees, you have the Red Sox, the Orioles are never good, but Tampa Bay is one of the smartest teams in baseball. So yeah, from a strictly baseball standpoint, the Blue Jays are a very exciting team to watch.
What's the worst team to play for then, Charlie? The Orioles?
How about the old
right now?
How about the old National League Central bottom cellar dwellers, the old Pittsburgh Pirates? Would you want to play for the Pittsburgh Pirates when they never hardly ever try to win? They had a little window there.
They have a nice
beautiful stadium.
And Pittsburgh's actually really cool. It's cheap there, relatively cheap. The worst spot would probably be Oakland right now. They got a crappy ass stadium. Mm-hmm. It's the taxes to everything up there. It's not San Francisco like you're in Oakland. It's still hardcore. The crime's bad. The team's cheaper than dog crap. That would be my number one. No way. Marlins, whatever. I'll go down to Florida and have a badass house on the beach, boy.
Diamondbacks.
Yeah, you're in Arizona, dude. You're finding a badass house on the cliffside looking down a valley. Come on now, Seth. I'm saying Oakland would be the worst, just like living-wise.
Living standpoint.
Yeah. But like Pittsburgh, man, you could find a cool place. That, I don't know, the one of the nicest stadiums, by the way. People love you there. So you're kind of the Midwest feel. But, yeah, they're cheap as hell, and they suck.
Arizona's hot, though, man, in the summer. Imagine living in is it in Tempe, or are they playing Phoenix? I don't know, Charlie. You would know.
Yeah.
But they're in Phoenix.
Okay. It's hot, man. In July, especially. I mean, I think they have like a closed-in roof, I think, too. And I think it's just because when it gets too hot, because it sure as heck doesn't rain.
That's a turn-off. The closed-in roof's a turn-off. But if you could have it open, somebody chimed this at the Rockies. I would have a place. Are you kidding me? I know Kroenke, whatever. He's part of that, whatever. But I would have a house in the mountains. I mean, you're living in, like, Denver. Like, no, man. Nah. And you could hit bombs out of there. That's not the Rockies. I'd play there. Would you, Charlie?
Well, yeah, and all those teams you mentioned. And the only reason I say the Pirates, okay, all those other teams are good examples, in my opinion. But the A's are also a very smart baseball team. The whole Moneyball thing, Billy Beane, I understand they're in a football stadium. They don't hold on to their free agents, but they're almost always good. The Marlins even when they were really in their sell modes back in the day, they won 2 World Series, right? I mean, they tore it down, but they also had 2 parades. I mean, so if you're a fan, okay, you hate the fact that they sell everybody off, but you had 2 championships. And also, I actually think that Derek Jeter is doing things the right way down there. I think the Marlins are building a contender. I think the Marlins are going to be pretty dang good the next couple years. I'm not saying they'll be legit necessarily this next year, but they have a really good young pitching staff that they could absolutely compete. To me, yeah, you saw the Pirates be good for that stretch there when they had Starling Marte and Andrew McCutchen especially leading the way, winning the MVP. But I mean, that was a 3-year blip where they were pretty good. You can go back to when they were good, obviously, in the 90s with Barry Bonds. But other than that, I mean, I'm 39 years old. In my lifetime, the Pirates have had 2 little streaks of being good. And that was till about 89 to 92-ish. And then whenever that was, around 2013-ish, 2015-ish. Other than that, we're talking about 30 years. 25 of those years, they're abysmal. They're in last place. They're boring.
Group? Do they have the same ownership group? Are people
I think
there?
We looked into this. I think the guy took over. It wasn't the same guy for the whole 30 years. The guy that took over is more recent. But he's been there for a little bit.
Why are they not spending money, Charlie? So explain to me this. Why are these owners, every year after year after year, they are bottom of the totem pole with their spending? This town would go effing crazy. I mean, crazy. What do we do? Wouldn't you want an ownership group to get the hell out of Dodge and find something if they're not spending? They're just not spending. Why aren't you spending? You see some of these dwellers that had won 60 games. They spent $600 million. Now they're in the mix. Like, I don't know. Like, I know it's a lot of money, but why you own the team? And every single year it's the same damn thing. It's Groundhog Day.
I think a couple things specifically in Pittsburgh play into this, which is, let's be real. St. Louis is baseball town USA. What's Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh is football. It is Steelers. You live and die with the Steelers. And then you have the Penguins. And the Penguins have a great tradition of winning cups in two different eras. You had the Mario Yager era, and then you have the Sidney Crosby era, which has been a really fun
Sidney
Malkin. Yeah. And so I think from a sports fan perspective, the Pirates being awful, usually they just go a bit under the radar because sports fans have a team they love. I mean, the Steelers are probably the best run organization in football. And I'm talking about for like 50 years. We always discuss the fact they've only had, 3 coaches in the last forever years because they have very stable ownership. They have an investment in the community. They're really good at drafting. They're really good at keeping their head coaches, finding talent and not messing with them. Even Mike Tomlin, look at what he had to deal with Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown. If you look at Mike Tomlin's records, the dude never has a losing record. He never has a losing record.
Hey, okay, well, let me explain this then. Okay, well, the Penguins were not drawing well, and all of a sudden they found a couple superstars. Like, where are the superstars? So my point is, the Pirates, although it's not necessarily a baseball town, like Pittsburgh's a hockey town because of who they drafted. Meaning, if the Pirates found a couple big buys, some big heavy hitters that are lefties with some badass music when they walk up there, they shimmy shake a little bit just like that dude off of Major League or whatever, and they crank some out and they're loud and cool. You don't think they could turn that around? Right? Or you buy a guy, you sign a big-ass dude and you pimp him out like you did Crosby. Now you can't get a ticket for the Penguins. Can't you do that there? And why aren't they doing that with the Pirates?
I just think they're being cheap, and it's baseball socialism.
That's just ridiculous.
They're able to make a ton of money from revenue sharing, from TV deals, and that's why we joke about the fact that their payroll will probably be less than what Max Scherzer makes. But guess what? Their ownership group is still making money because there's so many different revenue streams, even though they don't sell a ton of tickets. Yes, they have a beautiful ballpark. But when you look at like the MLB media revenue, the TV money, revenue sharing, that's why you're able to field a terrible baseball team and be really, really bad, but it's still a good business model.
But why do the fans give a damn about the good business model? It's not about a good – I mean, if you're good, the business model will sell one way or the other. And I look at I'm looking at the fans there, and I'm like, how are they putting up with that crap? Are they just like, who cares? They got 2 other big dog deals that they just pay attention to. So an ownership group that just worries about the business model and doesn't care about taking risks and bringing fans in and trying to compete with the other organizations in that town. If I'm a baseball fan in Pittsburgh, I'm pissed off. Like, I don't know.
Well, yeah, and they're also really bad. They're really, really bad, especially recently, at making decisions, at transactions to try to help their team, even if you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, which I say we shouldn't. But if you want to say, okay, we're a small market team, we have to find our windows. All right, you had a nice window, 13, 14, 15 with Andrew McCutchen. All right, let's do a rebuild. Look at their deals. What did they get back from Garrett Cole? Garrett Cole is a freaking stud. They got nothing back. They got nothing of value back for Garrett Cole. And then look at one of the worst trades in the history of modern baseball, which is recently they trade for, a couple years back, they trade for an over-the-hill Chris Archer. And they give up Tyler Glasnow, Austin Meadows. Tyler Glasnow is a Cy Young type pitcher. I know he's hurt now. But before he got injured this past year, that guy was trending towards a Cy Young. Austin Meadows is a really good young position player with power. They just make awful deals. I mean, that's a terrible deal. When you trade away Garrett Cole and you trade away Tyler Glasnow, Austin Meadows, and you get almost nothing back for those guys, I mean, that's going to set you back as an organization.
Seth, why'd they do that, Sethy boy? Why'd they do that?
They're not very smart, and it makes me believe that whatever they traded with to get or to give up Joe Musgrove to get in return is probably going to be a pretty similar tale to what you just said about Garrett Cole, Charlie. If you actually look at their draft picks, they have really good scouting, and it worked out with McCutchen and Marte and guys like that. And Brian Reynolds is really good this year. I mean, he's one of their few shining guys on the team. And like they got Adam Frazier. I know they just traded him, but they don't have a problem with scouting or drafting or anything like that. Like you said, Charlie, it's just the decisions they make. It's also worth noting that they have the third lowest payroll in the league, just ahead of the Baltimore Orioles and the Cleveland Guardians.
Who?
I can't say their other name now. They don't have a lot of money. They are not good decision makers. And I actually found out because the 20-year anniversary just passed, but the largest contract the Pirates have ever made was with Jason Kendall over 20 years ago, and it was 6 years for $60 million for 6 years. That's the largest contract that they've ever made in the 21st century.
Jason Kendall.
And that was their
underrated
guy. That was their guy. I mean, he was basically their Yachty in a way. I mean, not productive, like, in terms of stats, but as far as just the image in the city and, things like that.
Oh, yeah, no, and he had a hell of a career. So, okay, here's a question I want to ask you guys. And Cam, I always laugh at this when I see this on Twitter. And I understand, I get it, but I also think it's kind of funny. Like when you see a big baseball contract, when you see Corey Seager getting 10 years, $325 million, when you see Max Scherzer getting 3 years, $130 million, I'll go to Twitter and people will be like, hey, teach your kids to play baseball. Or let's say, hey, put a baseball in their hand, make sure they're left-handed. And I'm thinking to myself, do you really think the kid is that good at sports that they could pick their sport as if, hey, my kid was going to be an NHL All-Star, but actually I saw Corey Seager's contract and now I'm going to get him to play baseball and he's going to make $400 million. Okay, I know I'm nitpicking here, but I always find it funny, teach your kids to play baseball. Automatically, they're just going to become a guy who signs a $500 million contract.
No. Your kid plays baseball because he plays baseball as a kid because everybody does, and it keeps you hand-eye coordination. Your kid plays soccer to get your feet going and learn how to run. Your kid plays whatever, wrestles to get strong and confident. Going in, I keep always telling Andy, get tied, just get him into wrestling. It's cheap. Just get him in. Your kid plays sports, become whatever he wants to become. Whether it might be an athlete, it might not be. He might not be good in anything. But you get him into everything so he can learn. He can be around kids, and they socialize, and they work on different things. They have problems. They have to figure it out as a team to get out of them. And when they get a little bit older, they might be hired by some CEO. That's why you get him into sports. You don't just say, oh, play baseball, he's going to make No, man. No. You get them into everything so they just learn how to be a good kid and learn how to socialize and whatever the hell they're good at and they love, then you start driving that force. But, man, oh, man, I don't have kids, but I tell these, God, just get them into everything. You never know. And take him to plays, take him to games, and whatever he wants to be, he's going to be. But if you want him to be something because they make a ton of money, that ain't going to work, you idiot. It's not going to work. You force your kid to do something, he's just not going to be into it. He's going to rebel, and you're going to waste your time and money. Let him figure it out on his own. But I will say this. They got to do something. They don't have to be an athlete, but they have to do something. Something. You can't just sit around like a jackass and all of a sudden time passes you by and well, what's your kid do? Well, you don't know yet. No. He needs to do something at a young age. Get around kids. Learn how to talk. Have another person discipline him besides yourself. Stuff like that. That's how they become a man or a woman getting older and be successful. I get deep, Charlie. I get deep.
I love it. Well, I think it's more funny as if these parents – that would be like me saying –
They don't know a damn thing.
My son Charlie, who's 6 months old, he's either going to be a 50-goal scorer in hockey, a star quarterback like Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm. Next Tiger Woods.
He's going to be like Corey Seager, or he's going to be like Michael Porter Jr. So I'm going to be able to choose which sport he dominates in based on how much money. People, your kids aren't going to be that good. All due respect, some of them will. Thank you. 1/1,000,000th of 1% will make the big leagues. But come on now. And I know I'm nitpicking. It just always makes me laugh.
No. You're not. No. Because they need a little smack in the face at times, too. Because they do get a little ahead of themselves. Your kid's going to be what he's going to be. but you could guide them in different directions. But if you force the issue, they're going to rebel against you. And not to mention they have to be good at it too. Like, what do you? Hey, parents, look at yourself in the mirror real quick. You have a kid, like, you're like, well, what am I good at? Like, just remember, like, well, you be realistic with yourself as well. But on the other hand, it doesn't mean your kid's not going to be an unbelievable athlete or whatever. But it doesn't matter. They're going to learn things. They're going to meet people. They're going to know how to socialize and get out of problems and jams, and like as a team, and like learn how to like be nice to your teammate and help them and whatever. Like all that. I know it's cliche, but all that little thing, they all add up, man. Your kid can't just sit there in the basement looking up porn or whatever or playing whatever on there. Like they have to do things, whether they're good or not at it, to be honest with you.
Okay. Final baseball thought. Then we'll take a break. We'll come back on the other side and talk a lot of college football coaching carousel. The proposed potential new playoff format, expanded playoff format for Major League Baseball is you got 7 teams from each league would make the playoffs. Teams with the best record in each league get wild card round buys. I do like that.
Yeah.
2 other division winners and the top wild card team host all games of a 3-game series in a wild card round. I also like that because it incentivizes the better team. You get the home games.
There you go.
2 other division winners get to pick their wild card round opponents from 3 other wild card teams. I know some people are criticizing this. I think this is pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Are you telling me this is made for television, by the way?
Thank you.
This is made for television to have a show where these teams have to pick their freaking opponent, and who are you ducking, and are you picking a team, and then they're disrespected? You know what I'm saying? That's pretty cool to me.
I absolutely love that because it's no matter what, being in the media like we are, like that is drama out the wazoo, Sethy boy. Think about it. We're going to pick this team to play. Imagine that team that you picked. What are they thinking? They're like, you son of a, you want to play that game? Oh, get on with yourself. Let's go. And that's just going to be combative and emotional and dramatic, and I love it. What do you think, Seth?
Isn't this the same format that they had last year during the COVID season, minus the hand-picking teams? Because they had 7 teams make it in the first team, the best team. Actually, I take that back. The first seed, it was actually 8 teams, and it was 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7. So I got that mixed up. So I actually like this new format. I think it's really good. I actually didn't know about it until now. So
no, as you said, the only difference from last year was what I thought was unfair about the COVID year. And let's be real, nothing was fair in sports during the COVID year. But I thought it was really unfair for the top seed to basically have to roll into a 3-game series, and you could have the best record. I know it was a 60-game season, but I do like the best teams rewarded or the top teams. We talked about this all year long. I know it was a weird season, but I didn't think it was fair that the Dodgers, who were the second best team in all of baseball, it just happened to be that the Giants were ahead of them, and they lost the division. You know, they chased them down to game 162. I can't even remember whatever amount of wins, 106, 107. I almost didn't think it was fair that team basically had the Cardinals with 90 wins to get a one-game shot to beat them. I would like to see the teams that really go for it and that are elite throughout the regular season. I think they should benefit in the postseason, something like this.
Well, it wasn't too long ago the NBA just like abolished all of the division winners and stuff and just went straight off the best record. 1 to 8 was based on your record. Do you think that they'll be doing that with baseball anytime soon? So
you're saying, are you saying getting rid of the American National League, or
like
are you just saying
they keep the divisions for schedule purposes, so like teams can play 2 or 3 times more than their opponents, but then now they can add more teams. I guess I don't know. There's just more. I don't know. It's confusing. There's a little bit more to it, but it's just like it doesn't even matter what the divisions is. It's just the best record. Like the team with the best record gets the 1 seed, and then the Dodgers would be the 2 seed instead of being
like the hockey
seed.
Format back in the day.
Yeah. Sorry, it took a little bit to explain that, but
You're good,
just
homie.
instead of like
welcome to my world.
Instead of just because for that exact reason, Charlie. Just so a team that guts it out, getting 106 wins, doesn't have to play a win or lose go home game. After playing a grinding 162 games.
I completely agree, man.
Yeah, and that's where I'm all in favor. Like I'm probably cool with more rule changes than other folks are. if you don't really mess up the playoffs. And I'm not even looking at this as they're messing up the playoffs. To me, they're being creative. And if whatever you do actually incentivizes you being better in the regular season, but also, hey, if it gives a few more teams opportunities, even if you were a baseball purist, you have to realize, we all have to realize that the wild card and then adding the second wild card. Think about this past year. You had a crazy year, again, where because the Dodgers and Giants were so good, there was no conversation beyond the first wild card. If there was not a second wild card this year, the Cardinals season would have been really boring. I know they went on the streak at the end, won 17 straight, so they got a little closer to the Brewers.
I get you on that, yeah.
Right, but they were so far behind the Brewers that, look, that second wild card of the National League this past year, it kept how many teams in it? It kept whoever wasn't going to win the East in the Phillies or the Braves. The Mets were in it for a while. Obviously, the Cardinals were in it for a while. The Cubs for a little bit before they sold off. The Reds were in it pretty close, down to the end. The San Diego Padres were a team that everybody thought was going to make the playoffs. I just mentioned about 5 or 6 franchises that if you didn't have a second wild card this past year, it would have been really boring baseball for the last 2 months.
No, I agree with that 100%. But on the other hand, it's just, there's got to be somewhat of a balance. And Eric in Central West End chimes in and goes, absolute clown show of a playoff format. Manfred is ruining the tradition of the game.
Lighten up, Eric. Lighten up.
He's a good
Try
dude.
Something new.
He's a good dude.
No, he is. And I appreciate his text.
I get the saying of don't fix what isn't broken either. It's not, like you just said, Charlie, the format with what it is right now made it really enticing to have a bunch of teams gutting it out for the 6th seed, or the 5th seed rather. That made it competitive, but I do kind of like it now. Just imagine now though, with an extra seed though, there is a chance that a team that probably isn't as deserving to makes it, but it also, imagine for, like the Reds' sake last year, if they had a 7th seed, then a team like them, or even hell, the Mets, for as bad as they were in the second half, with all that talent, they still had a chance to at least, get the seed below the Cardinals. And,
right.
And even so, they were going to end up playing the Giants. So what's the realistic chance they were going to beat them 3 out of 5? I know anything can happen, but still, comparing like the Giants to like the Reds and the Mets and stuff, I think they would have beaten them anyway.
Yeah, I just think if you open up the playoffs, I'm not saying you have to totally water it down, although we are getting close here because we're getting close to the NBA/NHL model, which is basically 16 teams get in and out of 30 or 32, which is over half or dang close to 50% of the teams. But you also have to look at it from a marketing standpoint. The playoffs are the most fun. Wouldn't you want, like next year, you want the Mets to make the playoffs. If there's an extra opportunity for the Mets with Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom to make the playoffs for Major League Baseball, that's better for them. In the American League, don't you want, if it's a gimmicky third wild card, but it gets Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani into the postseason, that's better for the game of baseball, even if people complain about it.
Yeah, that's one more fan base being involved too.